All right. Can we talk about the last topic?
What's the last topic?
The AI white collar reckoning. This is such a Steven topic from one of my Alpha group chats.
Why'd you say it like that? You made me sound like such a douche.
The narrator. I'm the narrator. I get to just make it sound however I want. Someone says, "Yeah, dude, it's over." And like this is happening all over. You have a single person in recruiting or HR who is now 10x. You don't need to hire 10x more. You just consume 10x less resources to hire. A reckoning of efficiency is coming on white collar work that has been a big part of the economy for a while. Haven't thought through what happens on the other side yet, but it's pretty clear that side of it is coming. I think like the Anthropic CEO also said a few weeks ago that the reckoning is coming for half of all entry level white collar jobs.
God, that's wild.
I could see how it's coming in the future, but
future like a year.
Hold
from
on.
now?
Well, Nick, you're trying to implement this stuff like in your current business.
Exactly, and there's all kinds of issues.
Nick is patient zero here.
Yeah, and like, I mean, how easy is it to replace headcount with automated?
Okay, there's I think where the state of the agents are, because you hear about agents, but the state of them is probably anywhere from like 50 to 90% of the scenarios you can get to work, right? But that next 10% is incredibly hard. Like to get rid of the hallucinations is extremely difficult, and I don't know if anyone has done it yet. I'm sure there are people in pockets of different companies who have figured it out, but you got to remember that these LLMs are probabilistic predictors. Like it is predicting the next letter of what it's saying, and so when you say, okay, in this situation, I want you to do this, it's like rolling a dice, kind of. It's what the outcome feels like. It rolls a dice, and sometimes it hallucinates. So I'll give you an example in our actual use case. So we are automating a lot of our customer service tickets, like end to end, and we can do about 60% of them dialed. End to end, it's flawless. It's better than a human. Responds in 30 seconds. Refunds in order, whatever, perfect. But in some cases, like a customer will be like, "Hey, I purchased this. It was this much, and I'd like a refund." And so, you know how it parrots you back? It kind of glazes you a little bit.
That's so great that you thought you wanted a refund.
Well, no, it's like, oh, okay, so this
product does suck. You're right.
this is what you ordered, and this is how much it costs. Even though it has the tool to look up in the database to see exactly what they ordered and what it actually costs, and oftentimes customers get confused or they bought from a completely different company, and it'll just like hallucinate and be like, "Cool, I refunded your order." Because it's predicting what a human might say. A human might say, "Sure, I refunded your order for this thing and this thing," and they didn't refund the order. The address they completely made up the address, and so in a lot of these cases, I think this is what's happening. And so you have something that kind of works, but it's not production ready at scale. The other issue is you don't really have stakeholders that are willing to take the risk, right? So this thing needs to perform 100% accuracy at scale to get rid of your humans. So one, they're keeping the humans as insurance because like this thing's not really ready yet. And then two, like who is going to be accountable when the AI like refunds the wrong person or doesn't do payroll correctly? Like who gets fired? And so it's probably like someone pretty higher up. And I bet you they're just not ready to like take that kind of accountability for it. So I think the state of them is, and I see all these like agent demos, and the demos look slick. But then when you actually integrate it into other companies, the companies are not ready for, you need to have your data like dialed in and set up for like an agent to consume them. And there's all these different platforms and tools that are used, and they all don't talk to each other. So basically what you end up with is like 80% AI and then 20% like old school automation workflow.
Like linear
deterministic
logic.
Yeah. So that's what we were saying. I'm like, okay, there's a gap in this scenario. Can we just fucking make it deterministic so that, we don't have this issue? But it's harder than you think. And then what you realize, you don't really have something magical and special. You have something magical and special in 60% of the cases, but then in other times you just have like a glorified Zapier, like workflow. So I don't know. I think that's where the state is now. In a year, like every week we get smarter at getting these hallucinations down. The other part of it that people don't talk about is that we need a fuckload of humans to grade the AI's work, right? So we have to have like a way to test it. And while we could put another AI to watch it, and it does, and it labels like how good it did, but really we need like human level grading. So while we were trying to like, let go of say like 30 people, we hired another 5 people just to continuously watch and monitor and grade it and give feedback. And so it's a really like tough process to do the verification of the output.
Sure, but you acknowledge that everything you read in that prompt is coming probably within like a couple of years, right?
Yeah. I just not is like on the brink, I think, is like it's
but like the fact that like we are all like, oh yeah, 2 years, we're not really on the brink yet. It's just like so emblematic of how fast everything is moving.
I mean, if you go back to our conversation about the AI 2027, it did say 2025 was the year of these hapless agents.
Hapless agents, yeah.
Yeah, and then 2026 it lets it rip.
So, what are the white collar jobs that are most affected? Is it all of them? I mean, like, is it?
Yeah, I mean,
Like
from
90% of everything.
financial analysts, like think about what
Silicon
entry
Valley.
level people do.
Okay,
Like,
so let's think about the ramifications then. Like, if most people are laid off.
youth unemployment.
I mean,
goes-
like, have you seen like the chart of like developer hires?
like you're saying the job openings is not as high.
It's fucking
Like software devs?
It's like a shitcoin chart. It's
Okay.
just like already. The chart is already nuked. For,
Okay,
like,
so
software devs.
here's like I'm always like thinking about the stock impact, right? So I think like where my head goes is that corporate profitability is going to be higher than ever.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it will be. Like we're
will be.
measuring our ultimate success by OpEx as a percentage of revenue, and it should go down over time. Right now, it's going up because there's these exploratory R&D investments that we're making. One time write off, that's fine. But I'm hoping that like I can kind of see the sliver of light where OpEx as a percentage of revenue goes down. You become extraordinarily more efficient.
Incredibly profitable as a company, which then should increase your stock price. But then I think about the multiple on the stock price, because the multiple is like what people pay for the stock and those earnings. And like if nobody has a job, then nobody's going to be able to pay for those earnings, even if they're higher.
I mean, we've talked about this before. I do think there'll be new opportunities because there's certain tasks that are now, because let's say the floor of a cost was like $20 an hour before, right? And if there's certain tasks that can be done and the cost is now $1 or pennies to do it, then all these tasks now become economically viable that they weren't before. And as part of a company, that's not that interesting, but there could be entire new businesses or industries developed because now this task was never economically viable for a human to do, even if it was in the Philippines at like $5 an hour. Now it is, and now a new industry can form. Kind of like the old thing is like when you have Uber, you have phones and maps and location, and all of a sudden a new thing gets born. So
Yeah.
I do think that is something interesting.
I mean, I think to your point, like there's always going to be somebody to buy the stuff. I think in an extreme dystopian scenario where everything goes really, really bad, you just get this like complete bifurcation of society into basically like the elites who control the AI / all these companies reaping the mega productivity gains. And then you just get the government over here. And then these two
That's right.
entities just collaborate. And then like, well, who's going to buy the stuff? Well, the government basically by like taking some of your products, redistributing them to all the plebs so that they don't riot in the streets. And then they'll
Exactly.
buy their widgets in some like Black Mirror episode so that they're sort of like happy with the widgets. And then like you'll take all this profit and the government's happy. And then
That's
the
why I
elites
think
are happy.
that's why I think that the ultimate outcome is UBI. Like with all these people that are displaced, of course there'll be new industries that sprout up, so that like maybe half of them are redistributed into new industries, but half of the workforce as we know it are displaced. But corporate profits are at all-time highs, like astoundingly all-time highs, to the point where we have to redistribute the wealth, and like that will come through government, as Steven's saying, and it will come through the form of like UBI.